The speaker's name for
That's,
here?
it's a she, a Terry Polvado.
Yeah.
Just a second, this is it. There you go.
Oh no, don't worry about it. We're good.
Get things.
You'll have a good time.
All right, we're on now. Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call to order this Thursday, June 28th, 2012 meeting of the Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District. Will everyone please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We have our Metro Cable announcement. Open session meeting is videotaped on cablecast on Metro Cable 14. Replay on Saturday, June 30th at 1 p.m. and Monday, July 2 at 6 p.m. on Channel 14. Webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. And the open session meetings are also available for viewing on the district website at www.metrofire.ca.gov. We now have the public opportunity to discuss matters of public interest within district jurisdiction, including items on or not on the agenda. And it's my pleasure to invite our speaker to the podium, Terry Polvado. Good evening, Terry, and welcome to the podium.
Well, here I am again with my skillets, since I'm coming here every year.
That's right.
Thank you. And for those of you who don't know why I'm here, every May, Safetyville, USA has a Taste of the Little City. And we have a competition between the fire departments in this area. And there's beginning to be the look of a trend. First year we had it, Sac City won. But Kevin didn't participate. The second year, Kevin participated, and Metro Fire won. This last year, Kevin again participated, and Metro Fire won. So it's my pleasure to give these frying pans, first the individual one to Kevin.
All right.
And this is his second frying pan. I'm not sure how many of these he needs in his kitchen, so I'm about to ask him what he'd like next, and I'll just go get it and have it engraved for next year.
Corvette.
And this is the perpetual pan that the fire station keeps for a year. So I might as well just give it to Chief Hinkie to keep.
We'd like to see that. Congratulations. Kevin, would you like to say something? Accepting the coveted frying pan award from Terry, sponsored by Safetyville, USA.
Yeah, I'd just like to appreciate Safetyville for what they do, the programs that they offer, being able to participate in their fundraiser every year. It's been a lot of fun, a little bit of pressure there. The fire departments keep looking at me with these weird looks. I don't know what they're after, but it's been a lot of fun, and thank you very much. And we'll see if we can keep it going.
Okay, job well done. Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Oh, and please, Ms. Pavallo.
As long as I'm here, I'd like to talk just a minute about the annual Firefighter Chili Cook-Off, which is October 6th. And I have flyers. And last year we had 4 departments participating. This year we're looking for at least 10. So we've opened it up to 4 counties. Wow. And I really appreciate all that Metro Fire does for us to keep this going. It's it's a fundraiser for us, but more than a fundraiser, I think it epitomizes what we're all about, which is kids, safety, and then you put the mix in of the firefighters, and it's a real good feeling in the community. So I hope you support it again. Thank you.
Thank you again. Terry Polvato, Safetyville, USA, with our annual frying pan presentation. Okay. Moving on, we have our consent agenda next, and Chair will entertain a motion.
So move.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Would you call the roll, please?
Director Gould.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Newcomer.
Aye.
Scheidegger.
Aye.
Pearson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Directors Monk, Barzali, and Clark absent. Motion passes.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we move on to our action items. And first up is a proposed ordinance amending fee schedule for permits, plan checking, new construction inspections, general fire and life safety inspections, and other miscellaneous services provided by the district. And we welcome to the podium our Fire Marshal Ray Iverson.
President Jones, I'll lead off as he gets up, Chief Iverson gets up and gets ready to go. We review our fees. The last time was about 3 years ago when we implemented this. This year we've done cost analysis, hired a professional company to come in. There's been a lot of work that's been done on this. I met with one director, had some concerns in regards to a couple of the items and were valid concerns. So there'll be a couple minor tweaks or amendments in here as we move forward, not substantive to the change. But at the end of the day, our district, and I'll say before he starts, we just were not even in the same league in regards to keeping up with the times on what we should have been doing out there, what the fees were, and so on and so forth. So this has been a month-and-a-half process of trying to get us caught up to the 21st century and where we needed to be, and not being there was a detriment to us. And what you'll see tonight provides a foundation for what will build the future budget that you're going to look at later tonight as part of the cost recovery process that we've gone through. And again, everything that you're going to look at when you look at a fee, it's cost recovery. It's about going out and recovering costs. This is not about charging somebody for profit. It's simply trying to recoup costs, and we never recoup even close to what it actually costs. And with that, I'll turn it over to Chief Iverson.
Good evening, President Jones and fellow board members. What I'd like to present to you is a PowerPoint presentation which will lead off into discussions on our fee schedule amendment. In front of you, you have a PowerPoint presentation regarding the proposed Community Risk Reduction Division. This division is a snapshot into the future. It's going to be it's the fundamental change in philosophy and culture regarding fire protection and community services. Our current staffing was what currently you know as the Fire Prevention Bureau, consists of what's outlined for you on the board there. 3 office technicians, 1 GIS mapping technician, 7 inspectors, 2 supervising inspectors, and the fire marshal. What's being proposed under the new Community Risk Reduction Division is a new staffing model which outlines additional personnel in this model, as you can see there on the presentation in front of you. 1 secretary, 2 office technicians, a mapping technician, 10 inspectors, 2 investigators, 2 supervising inspectors, 1 supervising investigator, and 2 public education technicians, and 1 fire marshal. Any slides there. The new organizational chart will be looking like this as presented here in front of you. You see the organization has fully allocated positions in all areas of responsibility. General functions of the Community Risk Reduction Division will include fire protection engineering, public education, code enforcement, exterior hazard mitigation, and fire investigations.
This is what we call the 5 pillars of community risk reduction, and they all are cohesively joined together to bring about safety to the community. The mission statement of the Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District Community Risk Reduction Division is to develop and implement an optimal level of loss control services to prevent the cause and spread of hostile fires, recognizing and utilizing all available resources, and to improve the quality of life of our communities through code enforcement, public education, fire protection engineering, fire investigation, and exterior hazard mitigation. On fire and life safety, through the California Fire Code, it requires the issuance of permits. There are approximately 12 types of construction permits that are currently offered. Construction permits include things such as fire sprinklers, fire alarm systems, fire standpipe systems. And there are currently 46 types of operational use permits. And these are permits that are issued when dealing with hazardous conditions or dangerous functions in business communities. It's an exception to the fire code that allows them to do these type of activities. So last year alone, the Sacramento Metropolitan Fire Prevention Bureau issued over 1,500 operational use permits and over 2,500 construction permits. It is anticipated that the newly formed Community Risk Reduction Division will issue over 10,000 permits in 2012-2013 fiscal year. Approximately 10,000 businesses will qualify for what we have identified as a self-inspection program, which is a new thinking, a new philosophy in the way of code enforcement, which develops a partnership with the business community and gives a shared responsibility for fire and life safety and public safety in the areas of business community that we have today. Right now, we have well over 20,000 estimated businesses occupancies within our district that would require annual inspection. We have identified approximately 10,000 of those that will qualify for this newly formed self-inspection program. And what that means is annually, approximately 2/3 of businesses will be self-inspected. Then annually, approximately 1/3 of the businesses will receive an audit inspection. The qualifying businesses will receive a checklist with guidelines. Self-inspected businesses will return those checklists with a processing fee. And every 3 years, businesses will be audited by SAC Metro personnel. Now, as a result of this, it will result in a cost savings to the participating businesses in an amount of 35% over a 3-year average. The bottom line is the establishment of the Community Risk Reduction Division will result in a higher level of service to the community in a more effective and efficient manner.
Thank you, Fire Marshal. Now, that this is a 3-part section, and we just received the presentation section of item number 1 here, and that's probably included under presentation items on page 3 of our agenda. But are there any questions under this presentation? Any questions or comments by fellow director?
Yeah, on the staffing, on the one slide you showed 7 inspectors and then it jumped to 10, but you also added investigators and some others. The overall net gain of employees aren't you moving some people into this? So like the investigators, we've always had those, right? They're just in a different division. Because I just wanted to make sure that we're on the same page. The net gain of employees is what, 2 to 3 maybe?
It'll be a total of 3.
Okay.
We're reallocating some positions. We'll talk about that more in the finance presentation under the personnel actions required. But the net gain is about approximately 3 personnel.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that. All right. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments?
So it'll
Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. So it will be new to the businesses in the SAC Metro area to be self-inspected. Is that correct?
That's correct. That is a change.
Okay, so that is a change. And previously, if we were inspecting them how often? We were hoping to get there on an annual basis?
Given the proper staffing, we would be there annually.
Annually. Okay, so what I'm concerned about, and maybe you guys have, I'm sure you probably thought about this already. If businesses aren't looked at for up to 2 years? Because you're going to look at them every third year, correct?
Well, that'll be a random audit.
There
It
will
could
be
be
a
the first
random
year,
audit.
second year, or third year, depending on the cycle. It'll be a random selection. So it wouldn't be a fixed year.
Is there going to be any liability on the district's part for a business that may have had some type of catastrophe if the fire department hasn't been there to look at it in 2 years?
Currently, the liability would not be, if legal probably can weigh in on this.
Under the California Government Code, the district is immune from any liability as a result of failure to inspect or failure to enforce health and safety code and similar violations. So the failure to inspect, or even a negligent inspection once you're there to do it, the district would be immune from any liability arising out of those activities.
Thank you. All right, then. That was the question that I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Kelly. Director Gold?
Chair, Chief, thank you very much for your presentation. Really quickly, you said there's 20,000 businesses that your staff has identified as potentially needing inspections, and that 10,000, roughly 10,000, you've identified as being capable of having the self-inspection. Is that your testimony?
That's correct.
Okay. And then if I'm part of the 10,000 that didn't qualify for self-inspection, do you have a process that allows us to then have them come in and say, I disagree with your, I think I can do self-inspection? Would you allow that then, so they could go from the 10,000 that can't to the 10,000 that can?
Well, basically, the 10,000 that can't are required to be inspected annually through the California Fire Code.
For whatever their business is?
Exactly, whether they're state mandated or they're permittable occupancies that require annual inspection.
Okay. Thank you.
Director Scheidegger?
Just a quick question. Are we going to promulgate protocol for the self-inspection? I mean, is that going to be clear if I want to get to that point?
Yes, there will be detailed instructions and a checklist and qualifying questions that qualify business or disqualify businesses from being self-inspected.
Clear to the businesses. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the initial presentation?
President Jones, I would just add, I think that you're right on the agenda. It got moved to the back. This was really the lead off to get into why we're doing what we're doing and the fee adjustment. So with that, if there aren't questions, he'll be leading into that next, I would assume.
Right. We have, we're about to move on from receiving presentation to opening public hearing, and then moving on to discussion of adoption of the ordinance. Those are the three sections that are listed on our agenda. So, seeing no further questions or comments on the reception of the presentation, I believe the format is that I will now formally open the public hearing for discussion of adopting the ordinance. Do we have any speakers, Madam Clerk?
No, we don't have any speakers in favor of or in opposition.
All right. Go ahead.
The public record here should also reflect that this hearing on this proposed fee increase has been published with the Sacramento Daily Journal as required by California Government Code 6066 for 2 weeks. Informing the public of the nature and extent of the hearing and providing notice and opportunity to be heard as required by that statute.
And I would just add, because we really haven't gone over the staff report, and I don't know that you want Chief Iverson to read it specific to the fee ordinance, but you guys, do they want to ask questions first, then open the public hearing, or close the public hearing and then ask your questions? Because I know there may be questions on that.
No, in my limited activity, what happens, for example, at LAFCO is we have a period where we open it for public comment. If there's no comment, then we close public comment, and then we move on to the third item, which is the board discussion, and continuing on with the item, the third sub-item under number 1. All right, so having no public speakers signed up, the public hearing is now closed, and we will move on to board discussion of adopting the ordinance. Fire Marshal, would you like to lead on the introduction for the new ordinance?
Sure. The staff is proposing a amendment to our current fee schedule ordinance. This fee schedule ordinance amendment will include permits, plan checking, new construction inspections, general fire and life safety inspections, and other miscellaneous services provided by the district. California statute allows local governments to recover their actual costs associated with building plan reviews and fire life safety inspections. In 2005, the district updated the fire prevention plan check inspection fee schedules. Also, again, in 2009, the district received revised building plan check and inspection services fees. Based on the district's labor costs, which have increased since 2009, staff is proposing to increase our specific fees revolving fire and life safety inspections.
Madam Chair.
Please.
We're in now comments from the board members.
Oh, right. This is,
Okay.
this is to discuss the proposed ordinance.
Okay, thank you. I think it's important to note that this new process has already been going on in the country from what the chief tells us. These kinds of revolutionary or new ways of doing business have already been done, and that we're tweaking it for our particular needs here. I think that's important to identify, so we're not just out there coming up with some crazy process that nobody else has been trying or is out there. That's the first thing. The second thing is this process that you're proposing in this new ordinance allows for inspections which will save 35% for the person purchasing the permits or the taking care of the fees. And then I think, as the chief said, what's really important to kind of get across when fees right now have a pretty bad name, you know, because they're pretty closely identified to that other thing that starts with a T. And yet this fee is really a cost recovery. And so I think that's an important piece where we're trying to recover our costs and at the same time save the person that's purchasing these permits and dealing with these ordinances a 35% reduction in those costs, even those are maybe escalating. So I think that's an important element of this ordinance to kind of get across to the public, is that these fees are in many cases not even getting us our costs back, which obviously in times like this is not a good thing. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Additional comments, questions?
If I may,
Director?
I'm under the impression that proper outreach has been done to the business community, Building Office and Managers Association, BOMA, and other property owners in our area.
I can address that. Outreach has been conducted with the City of Rancho Cordova Council Advisory Committee, City of Citrus Heights, the Builder Exchange, McCullen Business Park, and many chamber groups throughout the Sac Metro area.
Okay.
Outreach will continue to be done to rebuild partnerships and relationships with the business community. It's an ongoing, active process.
And has there been an understanding from those people that you've had meetings with from those different organizations? Is there good understanding that this is cost recovery and not an effort to gouge or take advantage of their people?
Yes, the business community understands the need to be sustainable and to be able to continue to provide the level of service we do. We have to be able to recover a portion of the cost, and they we are willing to pay the fees as long as there's a service provided with it.
I understand. Thank you.
Director Pearson?
On the permit schedule, the fees for those, we are still talking about that, right? What's the incentive for the businesses that are doing what's right and they understand it's a fee for cost recovery, as opposed to those that try to slide under the radar? And let's say a company goes out and finds out they're doing an inspection and they don't have the proper permits. Is it just a reinspection fee that they get, or is there a penalty for them not filing and getting the permits prior to the inspection?
There is the fee schedule is pretty comprehensive in that regard. There is a progressive fee schedule for negligent response to the corrections that were ordered at the given time. In addition to that, there are fees in place for investigation of work done without the benefit of permits. So there's a pretty comprehensive penalty process for those who are not in compliance.
So those that are rewarded in the fact that they get just a basic rate and they don't get charged extra, right?
That's correct.
Good.
Director Scheidegger?
Chief, I think this is good business because if you don't recover somewhere close to what the operation costs, then the rest of the division's underwriting this function. So I'm glad we're doing this. I also appreciate the justification, the work that you and your staff put into supporting the increases that are here. The one question I have, is there kind of a categorical percent of increase that we would apply to these? About how much?
It's approximately $41 for the base increase for our base fees on an annualized basis.
Okay, for a permit? Or, I guess what I'm saying is, when you look at the scope of permits and reviews, et cetera, is there a percent increase for the new fees from the existing fees?
Yes, approximately 30%.
Okay. And that's, again, justified and supported, as you have done here so well, in terms of what the actual costs that we incur to provide that service.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I'd just like to make one follow-up on that I think is important. Even when we did the cost recovery analysis for what we charge, we could have charged a lot more. I mean, we could have justified a lot more. But then when we did that and we didn't charge near what the maximum, we were very conservative, we tried to line it up in comparison to other fire districts like Contra Costa, other equivalent districts that provide the service. They have not updated their fees. We were using their numbers from 3 or 4 years ago to compare what our numbers that you're going to vote on tonight are. So most likely what's going to happen is, for us, we're going to end up being well below what they are, because in the next year they're going to go back and raise their fees and do their annual analysis. So I think it's important to the taxpayer and the business person out there to realize that we are still going to be well behind that curve on that, but at least making an attempt to recover about 2/3 of what our costs are, actual costs are.
That is important. Thank you, Chief.
And then I'd make 3 other points, if I can, on your page 13 of 15. Under Exhibit A, attachment. Under appeals, Director Newcomer met with us and pointed out, under the appeals process, there's a fee if you want to appeal a decision of the fire department, and the appeal goes directly to the board of directors. And the way that it's worded is that it's $364 has to be attached if you're going to appeal. And most of these appeals we're talking about are dealing with tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars to millions of dollars in projects. They're not the small appeal. And I think we've had one appeal since I've been here was on hydrant locations or whatever. In this, it says that it's non-refundable. And I believe the fairness thing there, and Director Newcomer pointed this out, is we're going to amend that this evening, if it's okay to say, if the appeal is granted, then we would refund the $364. If the appeal is denied, you paid your money and that paid for the staff time for us to do it. I think that's a lot fair, as Director Newcomer pointed out, to the business community. So there's a change there. And then you had a couple clarifications that I wanted to get on the record. Monitoring of fire evacuation drills, which is number 13. The concern there is that we weren't going out to schools and charging them or things like that, and valid, you know, that we're going to charge them. This is for high-rise occupancies and occupancies that are big businesses that have requirements to do evacuation drills. And we're not going to charge them. We're not required to be there. But if they were to do some sort of specialized thing where they wanted us involved in that process, then there would be a charge for that, because that's not just going to be a simple deal to do. So this isn't for the mom and pop business. This isn't for the schools. This is for like high-rise type occupancies. So I wanted that to be clarified. And then under number 18, that had public education programs, we're striking public education and inserting training, because public education left the connotation, as so accurately pointed out, that we were going to be like charging to go out and you know, to schools and train, and that's not what that's there for. That is there so that if a company decided to come into Metro Fire, IBM, and they said, we want you to teach CPR, we want you to provide classes that they could get from the private sector that would provide them. we have a fee schedule in place to be able to accommodate what we would charge them, because they're asking us to do something that's up and beyond what normally would be provided. So that's a placeholder more for looking towards the future. We're not even sure what those are. It doesn't affect going out to the mom and pop business owner that says, can you show me how to work my fire extinguisher? That's not what the intent of that section is. So we changed it to training programs. It's a little more there. So those were three very, very valid points that I wanted to make sure you knew tonight, that we were going to change those 3 items on the record if the board approves those amendments.
Dr. Newcomer?
I'd like to thank the fire chief and the fire marshal for the time spent with me this afternoon to address these concerns, and of the concerns I raised, I'm very satisfied with the response in our direction.
Any other comments or questions?
You know, Madam Chair, I have another question. Is it, under appeals, Chief, since you brought that up, under appeals it says whenever the fire chief disapproves, is it allowable that we say, or his designee, or, because can't the fire marshal be part of that process as well? Or does state law mandate that your role be that person? And I'm just trying to take a little burden off our fire chiefs. If an appeal can be rejected, and you just say, or designee.
I think under our ordinance, if I'm not mistaken, the fire chief happens to be the last stop before it ends up in front of the board of directors. Clearly, that's a procedural issue. So at the end of the day, if I wasn't here,
right,
I appoint an acting fire chief with all the duties and powers. You'll be seeing that on Chief Wells for the vacation that I'm going to take. I appoint a fire chief with all the powers of designee. So the fire marshal would come and say, listen, this is what I want, and we would sign the final approval. Under the law, as I understand it, though, it's, the fire marshal carries a lot of power, sometimes almost equivalent of what the fire chief does because of what they're empowered under state statute to do. But for us, we're the final stop before it ends up in front of the board of directors.
I'd also like to point out, it is well, more than embedded. On page 2 of 15, letter G, it does distinguish under general policy statements. Fire chief may waive applicable fees or a cost when he, she, or his/her designated representative determines. So I feel comfortable that the intent is there. Counsel?
It's within the law to designate at the which is really an intermediate review process, because the final appeal rests with the board anyways, that the ordinance could be stated to say either the fire chief or his designee, or language that you have suggested, and it would be legal and appropriate.
Thank you, sir.
Excuse me, one more.
Please.
Or a couple.
Oh, no problem.
A couple questions on 14 to 15, patient assistance for profit care facilities. Is that in addition to, like, say, an ambulance is called out? I just wanted some clarification on that. The 364, number 16 on page 14 of 15. Is that just like a simple lift assist and the engine company goes out, not a ambulance? Or if our paramedics are there, we charge our basic ALS rate on, then we charge this on top of that?
You're talking about page 15,
14 of 15, number 16.
The way I read that is if they want us to come in and do it, like move patients from one bed to the other.
Type thing?
Yeah, they're a for-profit. They make money on that to use a public service and go out there and do that for them. It's almost like a gift of public funds. Medically, if they need to be brought to the hospital or treated, that doesn't apply.
That's what I'm saying, because sometimes, some of those will start as a lift assist, and the engine company gets there, evaluates the patient, and decides, no, this person could have a fractured hip, and they have to go. So we wouldn't put this on top of their ambulance fee.
I think the intent from our standpoint is this. We wouldn't do it the first time we went out there. We would have a facility that would become a known quantity that has the call in the 911 system. Can you send an engine or a truck over here because we need to move patient so-and-so? So it would become an issue. And at that point, this would be the enforcement disincentive for them to go, you either need to hire more staffing or have the proper staffing at your facility to be able to handle your patients. What I don't want the public under the misguided is this. If we are called and asked to go and help their relative in a care facility, we're going to go, okay? We're going to be there no matter what, and they need to understand that. But in some care facilities, unfortunately, and it's the exception, not the rule, in the fire service, there's those that end up calling on a regular basis to do routine patient moves within their facility because they don't have enough people. And that can be an issue, and this simply allows us to address that from a financial standpoint if it becomes a problem.
Then also 19, to follow up with that, it says standby personnel or safety officers. That, again, is that added to, you have some hazardous material responses where you're going to need a safety officer? Is that in addition to that fee in like a simple structure fire where you might assign a safety officer? Is that then billed to the homeowner for a structure fire?
All these fees are basically so we're not subsidizing staffing or staffing for other agencies or other companies or entities. And that standby fee could be a whole gamut of things, from fire watch to checking for overcrowding in a crowded nightclub or bar facility. Basically recovering the cost for service if we're putting our folks into action to subsidize or to augment someone's staffing.
So
For example, let's say my house catches on fire tonight, and you've got 10 companies there, and the IC decides they want a safety officer. Am I going to be billed for a safety officer? My house?
Well, this would be PG&E decides to do a confined space rescue and they need a standby safety officer. This is, which they take care of their own stuff. This is for the nightclub that decides that they want to expand the amount of people that they're allowed to have, but they want a safety officer or fire watch there in person from the fire department. In other words, they want a variance from the rules, and in order to do that, we have to place somebody there. This is what we would be able to do.
Like a hospital that can't put in their sprinklers or something, they would have to have fire stand by and watch, and something similar.
Yeah.
A perfect example of that
Anything like that.
is a fireworks shoot. A fireworks, live pyrotechnics fireworks shoot where we
Okay.
request an engine standby.
No, that clears it up. So it's more for specialized profit business, and they're using us to do their business. All right. Thank you.
Right, and I think that the key thing in 16, and maybe we need to write it in on 17, or that the intent is clear, it's the for-profit situation where it's an endeavor, profit-making endeavor, and that we're not making, like the chief said, a gift of public funds by helping to subsidize that particular business. So is that possible to put a little bit more? We have a few words here after each number, but I would think that perhaps a full ordinance would have a little more detail and description of this.
Or maybe a paragraph of cleanup language
Yeah.
to clarify some global issues contained within.
Yeah, I think what we have to be careful of is, let me give you an example. A nonprofit group wants to do a fireworks shoot.
Right.
We're required under the code to have somebody go there to stand by for that. The fireworks company is going to get billed, probably they're going to bill the nonprofit, but we're going to charge for that standby. So I don't want to get caught in the ambiguity of, I want to be somewhat careful of nonprofit, because the next thing I've got is the business that's hired by the nonprofit going, well, we're a nonprofit, we shouldn't have to pay the fee, yet the code requires that we have a standby because of the nature of what they want to do.
That's good. We do have the code requirements. That's the high-rise evacuation practice drills, and exactly what you just said, the ordinance requirements for a standby. Is it an old vernacular to call this fire watch?
The code addresses it as such.
Uh-huh. Should we have those two words in here somewhere?
Get additional language to item 19 to further clarify.
That would make it clearer to me, but I'm looking to council and to the fire chief, because it's very important not to cloud this for the examples that the chief just gave.
But we also want to make it somehow so people aren't confused that we're going to be billing for everything that we've been doing all along. This is above and beyond, I think, obviously, what the chief has pointed out and stuff. When you've got a big high-rise wanting to do a special thing, that's going to take a lot of man-hours. That's different than us responding to a high-rise for a fire.
That would
You know,
be
that's
people hours.
Staffing, thank you.
Staffing.
Thank you.
The standby personnel or safety officer, I think, says it all. I mean, really,
Okay,
I think,
Okay.
in my professional opinion, the fire chief and the administration, these are the exceptions, not the rules to what we're doing. So they're going to be specialized type things. And if somebody didn't feel they're being treated right, I mean, I handle waivers that come across my desk on a regular basis. I'm asked for mostly by nonprofits that want to do something that somebody, a private business is coming in. And we do give them a portion of a waiver for them, for the nonprofit, but not for the other part. So I think we've got a good system in place to process it up in checks and balances. That would be my take on it. But I work at your pleasure, so.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second it.
First and seconded. Is there any further question or discussion? All right. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Director Gould,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
Newcomer,
Aye.
Scheidegger,
Aye.
Pearson,
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Directors Monk, Orzali, Clark absent. Motion passes.
Right, moving, thank you very much. And Chief and Council and Fire Marshal, thank you very much for the full discussion on this, on the ordinance. Now we move to item number 2. Again, our Fire Marshal, Iverson, Services and Support Agreement with Fire Recovery USA.
Once again, Ray Iverson, Fire Marshal, Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District, President of the Board, fellow board members. I'm here to present a Services and Support Agreement with Fire Recovery USA. We're proposing Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District enter into a Service and Support Agreement with Fire Recovery USA to streamline our cost recovery and billing operations, to reduce costs associated with billing and of Community Risk Reduction Division fees. This transition will allow us to transition into the new age, an automated age, in which it will greatly reduce staff time involved with processing, and also it will increase the accuracy of our billing information. There will reduce the time it takes to recover costs that the Community Risk Reduction Division will be providing. Our current billing service provider charges a flat rate of 5.6%. Our new provider, if so approved, will provide a daily transmission of data to our current fire RMS system, which is Firehouse, allowing full integration. The new provider would also require a streamlined activity of events to allow daily reporting of information on a timely manner and at a flat rate per transaction. Fire Recovery USA is a sole source provider. They have the exclusive agreement with Firehouse software systems to be able to integrate their software systems to allow that streamlined process to happen. Some of the key features of allowing this contract to move forward would include the fact that Fire Recovery USA's programs are compatible with the new iPads. It integrates with our fire reporting system, and it provides automated billing and data integration, and it has the flat rate billing transaction fees, which will reduce our overhead cost, thereby allowing us to recuperate a large amount of the cost recovery that we will be collecting.
All right, thank you, Chief. Comments, questions?
Madam Chair, I have a question. So Chief, this, as I read your recommendation, it shows that the first year there'll be a 4,000 plus direct. Second and third year of this contract will be a direct only. Is that correct?
That's correct. The we elaborated that. I apologize. The $4,000 will be initial startup costs to
Correct.
allow for the recuperation of information from the U.S. Postal Service, so we can identify accurately the amount of commercial businesses within our jurisdiction and compare that with our database to make sure we have accurate information.
And what happens after the third year? Do we have any renewable opportunities here with this Can we put into the language or your recommendation that at the end of the third year, we can extend this an additional 2 years? I mean, typically, in this kind of deep integration into Firehouse and all these other things you've described, it makes sense to us that after 3 years, if we want to, we can just, without having to go out to potentially another bidding process, we can extend that contract for an additional 2 or whatever years.
Yeah, well, there's concerns on both sides of that. Your concern, and I had another director issue the concern from the other standpoint, which is that we need to somewhat keep an eye on what our contracts are. We have the ability to extend this contract each year for 2 successive years. Okay. In this type of technology, right now we sole source to them because they're really the only ones in the business that can do this. So the issue will become is at the end of the third year, we're going to be looking, are there other competitors out there that we are then forced to go from a sole source contract to a competitive contract potentially. So I think the way it's written, my thought and recommendation would be to leave it as is, and we're going to evaluate on a yearly basis anyways. And then as we gear in on that last year of the contract, if it's approved each subsequent year, and then we're going to have to take a look at what else is out there to make sure that we're not violating the rules of procurement for the process.
Chief, excuse me, follow up on your, I apologize, I had a sidebar when the initiation of your question, Director Gould. So is this a 3-year contract?
This is a contract that can be renewed for 2 one-year extensions, but it can be terminated at any time with 60 days' notice.
All right.
Okay, so the safety valve is in there. It had already been asked that by one of the other directors about the termination clause. There's a termination clause in the contract that talks about 60-day notification by either party, and they can exit the agreement, and so on and so forth.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Director Newcomer?
I didn't catch this earlier when we met, but the agreement shall automatically renew for successive 1-year periods. We don't have a limit in there. Do we want to include the 2-year limit for extension, or do we want to leave it open?
What page are you on?
Termination of agreement, page 52, Article 8. The same sentence we talked about earlier this afternoon.
See, it says shall continue for a period of 3 years and automatically renew. Unless but the caveat is that unless either party decides not to renew.
I think 8.1, we're going to review the contract every year. It's got a termination clause in it. I mean, at the end of the day, if they're not performing, I'm going to be coming to the board going, we need to do something different on a yearly basis, especially from the standpoint that this is about cost recovery. So it's about dollars. I think Section 8.1 under Article 8, termination of agreement, provides sufficient, notwithstanding any other provisions, agreement, either party may terminate this agreement at any time by giving 60 days written notice to the other party. I think that sets the standard that if we're not happy with what's going on, then we can turn around and do that. But I will tell you at the end of the 3 years, as we go into that third year, we're going to be reevaluating for much the reasons we talked about, is not just the review of the contract in general, but also, you know, what other competitors are out there. This is a technological type of business, and as technology advances, you know, there may be a bigger, better way to go out there.
Through the chair, if I may also add that this company gets paid when they collect. We will be looking at them at mid-year to find out what their performance level is. And basically, there's no initial cost to them directly. They get paid per transaction. So they have the onus is on them to provide a high level of service for them to be able to be paid.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. That was a, oh, go ahead, Director Kelly.
But I did notice that it doesn't seem like they're going to go out and do any collections. If we haven't done the work of identifying the proper individuals to charge, and then, of course, charge those individuals, they're charging us a fee to find out who the right person to charge will be, and they're talking about an 80% billing rate, success rate for obtaining accurate contact information. So it seems like they're expecting us, and I'm concerned, are we going to be the ones that have to bird dog individuals to pay their bills? I don't know.
As this has been vetted through finance, and is per their direction that they want to be in charge of the accounts
Okay.
and also the collection aspect of it, per our controller's concerns.
And we'll utilize somebody else for collections if need be. Okay.
Additional comments?
I wasn't certain what they were going to do, so I had them add an extra provision in there that we could turn them over to our existing collection agency that we use for our medical billing. They're working them. I don't think that we would necessarily do that, but if we feel like they've exhausted their means of collection, then we have that as another mechanism.
Okay.
One other thing here is, in order to get their business license, I believe they have to have their inspection. So,
Okay.
no ticky, no laundry. That's the bottom line. They got to pay to play. So, you know, you've kind of got, it's not like in the other world where people go, well, I'm just not going to pay my bills. I mean, it's a part of them staying in business.
For a current business license,
Right.
thank you. And Director Kelly?
I had one more question. Does the district bank with the Bank of Reading?
We will. Part of the stipulation of the contract is to open an account so that our money is in our control at all times, and we pay them out of our accounts. So that money will be established in an account to receive all the fees that are collected into our bank account.
Is this a new relationship with the Bank of Reading?
Bank of Reading, Reading, California?
Rhonda McFarland, Chief Financial Officer. That caught my eye too when I first reviewed the contract. So I went ahead and called the principals and talked to them about it. And they have, this is the bank that they do business with, and they have all of their lockbox and integration with their system tied into that bank. So it made sense that we stayed with what they are currently doing and not ask them to re-engineer things. But what I did ask for the change, and they did approve it, and that's as the contract is written, is originally they wanted to have the money under their control, deduct their fees from it, and then remit it to us once a month. And I said no, and we got them to change the contract that the account will be in our name and that they will bill us monthly and we will remit to them the money rather than them having control of our resources.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I make a motion, we adopt.
Second.
It's been first and seconded. I do have two items. This fee that Fire Recovery USA is charging, is that new ordinance list that we have passed?
I'd like to direct your attention to page, going back to the fee schedule. Yes, the answer to your question is yes.
Okay, thank you. Please don't make me read the whole contract 3 times. Thanks, Chief. I appreciate that very much. And then, sorry, the other comment is, with that whole deal with Article 8 and so on, it just seems like I had the same concern about this agreement shall automatically renew for successive 1-year periods. However, I think that's subsequent to the previous verbiage about it being 1, 2, and 3 years. So that was probably the little end. All right, end of my comments. Been first and seconded. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Directors Gould,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
Newcomer,
Aye.
Scheidegger,
Aye.
Pearson,
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Directors Monk, Orzali, and Clark absent. Motion passes.
All right, our new fire marshal can relax for a little bit. Thank you, Chief Iverson. Appreciate all the work. All right, next up, we have item number 3, elect California Special Districts Association Director, Region 2, Seat A. We have 4 candidates, and I'm prepared to vote for one of them, and we'll entertain a motion for that nomination.
I'll move that we nominate Director Pearson.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments?
Have we vetted this guy?
Gosh, I tried to Google him. It didn't really show up.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
So. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Director Gould,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
Newcomer.
Aye.
Shattucker.
Aye.
Pearson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Directors Monk, Barzali, and Clark absent. Motion passes.
And best of luck, Director Pearson. Anything we can do, let us know. All right. Moving on to action item number 4. We have our fiscal year 2012-2013 preliminary budget. Chief Financial Officer McFarland, welcome to the podium.
All right. As Rhonda's coming up, I'd just like to make a few preliminary comments, which will be on your overhead screen before she gets into the nuts and bolts, and I'll kind of tell you how this is going to work. I'm going to make a few comments on the pages on the overhead that you'll see. There'll be numbers. I believe they're in the upper right-hand corner. You'll see like 26-29. Those correlate to the pages in your budget. So when we're talking about an overhead slide, you'll know what pages you can go to in your budget to look at it. I will go ahead and give a few words. We'll move into Rhonda's nuts and bolts of the budget, and then each division, I believe we have 7 division speakers, will get up and give 2 minutes, 2-minute presentation on basically what they did last year, what their goals are for this year. They'll stay up there in the front. We'll close, and then you guys have the ability to, during the process, interrupt and ask questions, and or at the end, you'll have the ability to ask follow-up questions either from any of the staff here, 7 division heads or ourselves. The budget process is a collaboration of management and labor. We really changed the way we did business this year. It's kind of the turnaround, and what it is decentralizing. Division managers now have a hugely enhanced role in budget preparation and monitoring. It's their budget for their division. They've got to come with what their needs are, and then they get in there and they have to justify that in the global picture, and then the resources are allocated, and they've got to be responsible for their division budget of watching what's going to be expended throughout the year. And the staff has done a tremendous job in the finance division of working with us. This is the first year that this has happened where the division managers have had this responsibility in building the budget this way. So it was a learning process and a learning curve, a little stress involved, but really is going to be better for the organization, I believe. We all met between April and June. We had labor involved. They provided their own accountant to sit there and be able to look at the numbers as we put them together. It was a collaborative process. I believe that as we're open and transparent, we have to be open and transparent with everybody. The citizens, the taxpayers, labor, everybody that's a stakeholder in putting this together gets a seat at the table or their representatives to see what we're doing when we're putting it together. That's the only way we're going to continue to build the trust that we need to address these tough economic times. The emphasis that we did, the guiding principles, was this. We are trying to get to full cost recovery. We are trying to recover costs. We have a ways to go, but we looked at that. Budget was for necessary expenses, what we needed to do. What was a necessary expense we needed to expend? Not fluff, not excess. What did we need to do? And justify it. If you couldn't justify it, you didn't get it. No kicking the can down the road. No deferral of current year medical or pension costs like what was done in the past. This is about catching up and making the payments when they're due on time and getting caught back up so that the pot's right, so to speak, and we can continue on with what we need to do. One-time money used for only one-time expenditures. So you're going to see in this upcoming budget that GEMT retroactive money that was one-time money was used to catch us up and pay one-time expenses. No longer are we paying ongoing expenses with one-time revenue. That's how municipalities got into these tough times. One of the many reasons, that was one of our guiding principles. And minimizing the use of reserve funds. And when you talk about reserve funds, you're going to see us that we dip into the reserve fund for about $1.5 million in this budget. That's not because we had to. We had a balanced budget. That's because we decided to start up the single role paramedic program. It was a new program. It had costs associated with it. We dipped into reserves for that, for those one-time costs. It will be properly footnoted, and the reimbursement will take place as the net cost recovery comes in over the future years to pay the general fund reserve back. We will spend money to get better efficiencies and better cost recovery strategies in place, and that's what that is, and improved service. A major program changes you're going to see, as I just discussed, the new single role paramedic program. You're going to see the increased federal funding for transporting Medi-Cal patients known as GEMT, Ground Emergency Medical Transports. You heard tonight about the huge change and dynamic change in the Community Risk Reduction Division with the enhanced service delivery we're going to give them. Of course, that used to be known as the Fire Prevention Division, but to be in line with where the rest of the country is going, and also to put us in line for future grants and stuff, Community Risk Reduction Division is the name of the future. And again, the transition of SAFER grant firefighters to the general fund, you're going to see that in May of this next fiscal year, that grant expires. You're going to see examples in this next year's budget of the critical work that Larry Davis has done. And we're going to continue to try to get those grants, but we've climbed a pretty steep hill. And there's no guarantee on grants, so we've built in that if we don't get ongoing grants for that staffing, we're going to have to pick it up for the end of the fiscal year. At the end of the program, when I conclude here, when Rhonda gets done and you've asked your questions, I'll give you an outline for how we're going to finish this budget process out, and then we'll go into a snapshot. You have a draft in front of you that came in an envelope in regards to what the 2-year projections look like. And I'll go over those very briefly with you and then be happy to answer any questions. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your time and turn it over to our CFO, Rhonda McFarland.
Thank you, Chief. I'll just remind you that up in the right-hand corner, for example, on the slide where it says 2425, that is a reference to the pages in your budget binder that you've been given. And we're starting off talking about the general fund, and in particular, the general fund revenue. And this pie chart depicts what our various sources are and what percentage they make up of the total $146.5 million that we have budgeted for revenue. And when we say revenue, it also includes what we call our cost recovery. For example, in the area of the inspections, permits and plans, as well as our medical services, transportation services, that is truly cost recovery. And the lion's share of our budget is our property tax money, and that is 70%, which is smaller than it's been in other years, in that we've been doing a better job at cost recovery and growing the smaller pieces of the pie a little bit. And then I'll just point out that we also show 5% for the GEMT revenue, which is both current and prior year.
That's a new piece of the pie.
That's a new piece of the pie.
Never existed before.
And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. So our $146.5 million is $10.2 million more than our prior year's budget. And that is quite a feat considering the fact that we continue to have property tax declines. And in total for this budget, we forecast $4.2 million in decreases. We did engage our consultant that specializes in looking at property taxes in this difficult economic time as far as forecasting where we're going with that. And although we overall is about a 4% drop, we are anticipating about a higher percentage than that, over 6% based on assessed values. But we also have had a lot of refunds coming in and out, and so in the fact that we're expecting less property tax refunds, it actually made the decrease not as large as it could have been. So we also are forecasting with the cost recovery and community risk reduction, additional $3.7 million. And then the GEMT money is $6.7 million. So that's a huge part of that $10.2 million. And I think one of the things that we really would like to share about that is Sac Metro was a leader in that. it is something that's benefiting every fire district as well as hospital districts. Anybody that transports Medi-Cal patients are eligible to participate in that. And this agency partnered with the California Professional Firefighters group to bring that legislation forward. It was signed by the governor last October, and as a result, we are receiving more revenue for our transportation of Medi-Cal patients. So that is money that was available if the state had its contract set up properly with CMS, and with that change, we have been able to anticipate that money. Myself as well as Chief Clough have been sitting on a task force. We've been meeting with the state. We've been meeting with other districts and departments up and down the state so that we make sure that we share the information. And we're anticipating probably it's going to be money that comes in once a year, not like our normal billings where we receive it on an ongoing basis. So once a year in arrears, we will get the money. So it'll be probably, I'm anticipating by January we'll have that money. But in addition, there's the retroactive billing that goes all the way back to January of 2010. And that date was set by the date that the change was published in the Federal Register. So, and they've been continuing to earmark that money as we've gone through budget cycle to budget cycle with the federal government so that that money is available once all of the procedures are in place. So the bottleneck right now is just getting a cost report that works for all the different types of fire groups. And so I just maybe spent a little too long on that than I should, but I think we're very proud of being a leader for that. In addition, for our cost recovery of our medical transports, we anticipate that being up $4.3 million. There's been some changes that the board put in place this last year, and this represents having those changes in a full year rather than just a partial year. And in particular, what I'm referring to is that we do treat people that we don't transport, and so we now have a fee for providing services to someone in need that doesn't necessarily be transported. So those are costs that are typically picked up by an insurance company. Okay, going on to our expenditures, we have $147.9 million in expected expenditures, slightly larger than our revenue, and we have a particular reason for that because we are starting up the single role paramedic program. The lion's share of our costs, 87%, are our labor costs. Because with the services we deliver, that's what makes sense, our firefighters and the support staff. So in addition, we have a small amount for capital assets and our supplies and services. When we get to the capital facilities fund, you'll see there's additional capital asset spending there. Well, we had some structural changes to our budget, and it kind of ties into what Chief Hinkie was talking about as far as holding our various managers, getting them more involved in their budget and making them accountable for the costs that they oversee. So in past budgets, this agency has budgeted all of the labor costs in the Human Resource Division. And through an effort with our financial system, we were able to divide up the various positions by division so that when we give a monthly report to actual reports to our division managers, they'll be able to see the labor costs that they've been incurring for their division. And so that's why when you look at the budget, it looks a lot different than last year. Our the category of suppression is where our firefighters are, and that's the lion's share of the labor cost budget. It's about $94 million. And then we also split the single role paramedics out into their own division, and their labor costs are about $1.7 million. We went ahead and put our deputy chiefs now in the fire chiefs division, and we've also split out the administration staff for operations out of the suppression costs. In total, our labor costs are $129 million. That is up $8.3 million. And as we have outlined in the letter from the chief, there's a lot of things going on that make up that number, and a lot of it has to do with not kicking the can down the road any longer. So this slide, the first item that I call out there is our employee concessions. It's $1.9 million decrease, so that number would have been even higher without those concessions. Our employees are now, as of July 1st, will have 12% of their wages put towards their benefits, which is a very large percentage, and I'm not aware of anyone else in our near our area that's doing anything of that magnitude. So that really shows that our employees have stepped up to the plate and partnered with the district in this difficult time. We've also, you'll see some amounts, $2.6 million for filling prior year vacancies. There were positions that we were slow to refill, including 13 firefighter positions that remained vacant. And so when we rebudget those, that adds $2.6 million. So when we did our mid-year budget, we reduced the labor costs for those amounts, and now we're restoring those. That leads to having less overtime. Between the single role paramedics that we'll be adding, along with additional firefighters, we anticipate the overtime to come down about $1.9 million. The single role paramedic in total comes to 47 full-time equivalents. It includes the EMTs, the paramedics, and also some captains for oversight. So that is a total of $1.8 million. I think I mentioned 1.7, so I guess I was off. But 1.8, and then community risk reduction was $573,000 for the new positions. I know Chief Iverson spoke of 3 full-time equivalents, and that's probably more accurate than the 4 I show there. I think what we did was include an upgrade of one of the positions, which really wouldn't represent an entire full-time equivalent. It's an upgrade of an administrative staff to a secretary. We also have some new support positions. We're anticipating quite a bit of work in the Human Resources Department and needed to add an additional position there. We have, I think, expecting over 50 retirements. We have the staffing for the single role paramedic program, and that's just of safety people, and another 10 that we're expecting of support staff. And we find that with our recruitments that there is a lot of interest. So even though it's that number of positions, the number of applications are sometimes, 100-fold. So anyway, we added another position there in order to maintain adequate staffing in that department, as well as a statistician in our EMS division, so that we can have the proper level of employee doing that type of work rather than our medical staff. And the half a position represents half of a new grant position. As you'll see as we get further along in the presentation, our grants have grown tremendously, and there's a lot of administrative work that goes along with that. So we budgeted half of it in the general fund and the other half in the grant fund, with the anticipation that we'll be able to recover 50% of the costs through the actual grants. We also have in here the safer grant firefighters that the chief spoke of. That particular grant ends on May 18th of 2013, so it's about a month and a half worth of labor costs. We also did not defer benefit costs. So when we are budgeting for 12 months, and the last year they only budgeted for 11 months, you end up with additional $2.8 million. And then in addition, we have the $2.1 million that we are paying from 2012's benefit costs. And then in addition, as has been recently in the news about CalPERS health plan, the 9.6% increase that we're expecting January 2013. So that adds another $1.4 million. So altogether, that's your $8.3 million. For service and supplies, we spend $15.7 million in the proposed budget, which is up $2.7 million. A lot of it has to do with the single role paramedic program, $563,000 of it, additional recruitment costs, which we spoke of previously, medical service, a lot of mandated type testing that we're required to have for our employees or also in pre-employment. And then we have some 1,200-hour maintenance going to be happening on our helicopter, as well as some major vehicle repairs for a $315,000 increase in that area. Going hand in hand, the fuel costs are higher than, I know we've had some reductions recently, but from a year ago we are up in price on our fuel, so we added another $126,000 to the fuel budget. A few other ones, just kind of miscellaneous costs. We don't have elections every year, but this year, this coming fiscal year, we will be, and that's $122,000. We've had some additional efficiencies that we're going to gain from certain computer services, and that was another $166,000. And then when you see the increased revenue for our EMS billing, along with that goes the fees that we pay for collecting it, as well as we included in the budget the fees that we will be paying Fire Recovery USA. So between the two, there's a total of $345,000 increase from the prior year. And then we have just under $300,000 for some additional consulting costs for the chief. Okay, the next category we have in our expenditures is our taxes, license, assessments, contributions, and debt service of $2.3 million. And that's down $1.3 million. And the reason that is that we had debt service in the general fund for apparatus, fire engines, ambulances, et cetera, that were purchased a couple of years ago. And we went ahead and put that debt service in our capital facilities fund. So you will see that as an increase in that fund. We do have to pay special assessments if we have property that are in an assessment area. We don't pay normal property taxes, but we do pay special assessments, and we had an increase in total of $150,000. Most of the capital outlay, as I mentioned earlier, is in the capital facilities fund, but we do have $588,000 in the general fund, and that is a matching for the AFG defibrillator grant. We're getting somewhere in the neighborhood of 75 defibrillators and receiving, as you'll see in the, well, I didn't call it out in the grant fund, but I will tell you the grant fund is receiving $1.7 million. So we're net ahead. We're getting some new equipment that's desperately needed, and it's also things that we would have purchased anyway in order to serve the public. So it's a real win-win all the way around. One of the things that we like to look at is where are we on our reserve ratios. We did start out the year at 7.7% of our revenues or our operating costs and reserves. And at the end of this year, it was up to 11.3%. And then at the end of the 12-13 year, we'll be at 9.3% because, again, we're using the $1.4 million in reserves for the single role paramedic program, which we intend to replace at a later time. Okay, we just wanted to give you some comparisons of what our labor costs have looked at for the last several years, and this goes all the way back to fiscal year 2008-2009, where we had labor costs totaling about $142 million and represented about 91% of our budget, and we're now at $129 million and 87%. But the one thing that I called out on here is the $9.8 million in savings that's happening from the ongoing concessions. The number that we mentioned earlier was the additional concessions over and above last year, but in total, $9.8 million is what the 12% represents, along with some concessions that were made in how we pay our overtime. So clearly, our budget would not be balanced without those sacrifices from our employees. Going on to our capital facilities fund, we receive development impact fees in that fund, and we're anticipating $1 million, which is exactly what we received this year. We're seeing a little uptick in activity, but we were trying to be conservative. So if additional money does come in, that might enable additional capital spending. But at this point, we're anticipating $1 million. We also have with one of our grants that has to do with thermal imaging cameras, participation by some other agencies. So we were instructed by our auditors to go ahead and budget those matching monies coming in. So when you see that aid from other governments, they actually receive something for that. They receive the ticks that they get in that grant. But that's their matching portion, and it's all flowing through this agency. In addition, in December of 2011, we did issue bonds for both buildings and equipment, and we have $1.6 million remaining at the beginning of the fiscal year, which will be spent down by the end of the fiscal year. And then, in addition, we are using $4.4 million of capital reserves. And I'd like to point out in this fund, these monies are restricted and can only be used for capital and are required to be used for capital. That is what those fees were paid for. So in this coming year, we're using pretty much everything in that fund, and we'll continue to reinvest into the district as we're able to. So in total, this fund will be spending $7.4 million, and we have capital assets for building structures at both our headquarters and fire stations. We have equipment for the single role paramedic, monitors, and gurneys. And we have another $1.3 million in other equipment and apparatus. In addition, as I mentioned earlier, we did put the apparatus lease into the Capital Facilities Fund, so that's the $1.5 million that you saw come out of the general fund. And we have, consistent with last year, we have the lease revenue bonds, a portion coming out of this fund. As you might recall, we did create a new leased revenue fund, and we have about 50% of our headquarters building leased out. So we are using the rental income from that to pay that portion of the debt for that portion of the building. So we've split the debt service between the two funds. And this represents the piece that this represents the piece for the portion of the building that we occupy. Mm-hmm. Okay, we are starting to see some activity at our Zinfandel training site, and one of the conditions of developing that site is a traffic signal. So $400,000 will be spent on a traffic signal, which will in turn be dedicated to the city, and they will maintain it in the future. So we indicate in our page 67 of your book that is capital asset, when in fact it won't be our capital asset, it'll be somebody else's. So I think a better characterization is it's aid to local government, but we benefit from it for our site. We also have a certain amount of services and supplies that come out of this fund, and the services being the fees that are charged to us by the county for collecting our development fees. And we have a small amount of consulting fees in there because we are reviewing our development impact fees to make sure that we have them as up to date as possible. And we have, I believe, some software in there. And then with that new leased revenue fund, we don't have it entirely self-sufficient at this point. So we are loaning from this fund $89,000. We anticipate the leased revenue fund in the subsequent year will be able to repay that in its entirely, in addition to monies that were advanced in the current fiscal year. And what will enable us to do that is we are very, very close to leasing out our former office building on Hurley. So I'll just mention in the 12-13 budget, we anticipate 6 months of rent from Hurley, and so when we do receive 12 full months of rent, that's when we actually will have money available to repay, and then in years beyond that, we'll be able to use some of that money for capital improvements to our other facilities. We do end the capital facilities fund with a small $282,000 reserve level. I'm going to turn it back to the chief at this point, unless you have any questions for me at this point.
Are there any questions or comments from fellow directors?
I saw a couple of slides pop up that I wasn't able to find in the book, and one of them was the labor costs and percentages graph that you showed us.
Mm-hmm.
Would you mind going back to that? It was just prior to slide number 67.
I think there were some replacement documents, so maybe that got missed.
Oh, that's the one I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
So as you can see, there's no number up in the corner, so you're right. Don't look for that when it's not in your binder book. So we do, as we're going through and putting together the presentation, if we feel like there's additional things we want to call out, we go ahead and create another slide. Certainly can make this available to the board after the meeting if that's so desired.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other slides you'd like me to go back to? Okay, then I'm going to move back to where we were and turn it back over to Chief Hinkie.
And but just before you close, I would like to thank you for separating out the reserves. We have the different, the general fund reserve as separated from the workman's comp reserve, as separated from the capital facilities reserve. I think that's very important. And then close to 10%. Well done. Thank you.
Welcome.
At this time, I'd make one comment, is in your budget book, if you notice too, we put in there what percent of each division is of the total operational costs. So you'll see, you know, some divisions are 1% of the overall budget, some like operations are, you know, 60 or 70% of the overall operation budget. We're really trying to, finance has done a tremendous job in breaking that down, and I think that's important so we can see where we're spending our money, and when people think that they're spending a lot of money in one area and you actually look at it in the totality of it all, it's really a fraction of that. At this time, I'd like to call the command staff up in order, and they will go ahead and proceed on with about a 2 to 3 minute explanation, as I said, about what they accomplished this last fiscal year and what the big lifts are for them in the coming fiscal year.
Welcome to the podium, chiefs.
Good evening, Board of Directors. Assistant Chief Bill Daniels with the EMS Division. Tonight I'm going to review the EMS Division's accomplishments for the past fiscal year and the Division's plans for 2012-2013. Reference page in your budget binder or handout is page 47 through 49. The EMS Division accomplishments for 2011-2012 focus on maximizing efficiencies. The Division secured a $1.75 million grant for cardiac monitors and developed an RFP for electronic patient care reporting, also known as EPCR. A new EMS education program was developed to enhance emergency medical care. The Division implemented a first responder fee, updated our medic fee schedule, and updated our medical billing procedures. Finally, staff assisted with legislation on AB 678, which is also known as GEMT, or Medi-Cal reimbursement. For fiscal year 2012-2013, the EMS Division plans to continue to streamline its operation while increasing its efficiency. A major focus is the education of our EMTs, as well as our paramedics, to ensure high-quality medical care continues to be delivered to our community. The Division plans to implement and train personnel on the EPCR system. The EPCR will provide greater accountability to our medical documentation and timely billing. Medical billing procedures will continue to be refined and maximize cost recovery. The Division secured an AFG grant for cardiac monitors. The cardiac monitors are over 12 years old and exceed their life expectancy. The Division has developed a regional RFP to purchase cardiac monitors. Implementation should occur in the fall of 2012. A major initiative of the department is the Single Role Paramedic Program. The program is designed to enhance the district's community outreach efforts towards hiring and promoting greater diversity of our workforce providing a pathway to become a firefighter-paramedic with Metro Fire. The program transitions 5 contract ambulances as well as 2 district 12-hour medic units to single-role paramedic units. The start date is estimated to be early 2013. As far as staffing, the single-role paramedic program will require that the organization hire and train 14 full-time EMTs as well as 30 paramedics. In addition, 3 EMS shift officer positions will be created to supervise the single-role medics and enhance our EMS delivery system. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Questions or comments for Chief Daniels? Okay, thank you. Next up. Other duties as assigned.
This is a well-kept secret. Ray Iverson, Fire Marshal. The Community Risk Reduction Division, I won't spend too much time going over that. We kind of covered that in great detail this afternoon or this evening. However, I did want to highlight a couple key points from previous year, fiscal year of accomplishments. 2011-2012, the formerly known as Fire Prevention Bureau at the time, had converted all the old plan check database into a new operating system that we currently use today, the Firehouse Records Management System. In addition to that, the organization had been able to enhance and streamline the weed abatement process, which we're actually in active season engaged in right now. We've had a bit of ability to reestablish and expedite our plan review service. We established a plan review expedite service to be able to turnaround time of plan review within 10 days of those who needed to expedite a process due to continue to develop business construction and not to delay their expediency of that. We also have began beta testing, which we're well underway, with the use of iPads in the field in conjunction with our Firehouse software. So that's something that we actually are using today as we speak. Coming up for 2012-2013, as mentioned earlier, we're going to reface the organization as far as community risk reduction goes and catch up with the mainstream nationwide. We've updated our fee schedule. We're transitioning to digital plan review, which will also help expedient efficiencies and expedite development as we try to rebound from this economic depression. We're going to increase our participation with professional associations and professionals in our field. We're going to obtain International Code Council certifications for community risk reduction members. We're going to apply for accreditation through International Code Council and the Centers for Public Safety Excellence to accredit our organization. We're going to fully implement the use of iPad inspector applications throughout our district, which includes our engine companies that will do inspections. We're looking forward to the opportunity to develop a strategic plan for the Community Risk Reduction Division as we take it forward into the future. And along with that, we'll be developing a career development plan for the Community Risk Reduction Division as well. I'd like to turn it over to Chief Holbrook.
Thank you, Chief Iverson.
Good evening, Board of Directors. Chris Holbrook, Deputy Chief of Operations, and I apologize, but I'm still adjusting from finding out tonight that I no longer count as suppression staff, and that really it's an adjustment. So, the first highlight that I want to, the first accomplishment that I want to highlight for the operations group was the 77,000 accomplishments that were accomplished in 2011. An increased run volume on a decreased budget is always difficult. And I have to say that the men and women of this district face that challenge supremely. 2011-12 was actually a time of efficiencies for us. We had to find every efficiency that we could, knowing that 12-13 was another downturn year. So not only did we replace lost assets like engine companies that were browned out with grant-funded truck companies, we renegotiated contracts, we delayed the start of programs, and found every efficiency that we could in EMS to maximize our opportunities. Not for one moment will I stand before you and tell you that my goals for 12-13 are anything other than to maintain what we do have today. While our efficiencies seem to be maxed out, what the analogy we're using is the bolts are tight. If we tighten it any further, we're actually going to break the heads off of those. And so what we will be doing well to maintain what we have. At the same time, I've got to look at that not as a constraint, but more of an opportunity. It's an opportunity to plan so that in follow-on years we can come back to you with a intelligent, informed plan to move forward to re-engage some of those assets that we've lost over the years. Now, I'll be presenting several divisions for some of my managers that couldn't be here tonight, so I'm going to leave it with that unless you have any overall questions for operations.
Chief, did you say 77,000 operational responses?
Yes, sir, 77,000. It's the highest that we've ever had.
What was the increase year over year?
Actually, it's in my slides. I actually have a slide on it, and I'll provide it to you. I'll pull it out when somebody else is speaking.
And I would note that on top of that, as of a couple weeks ago, we are already 2,000 runs ahead of where we were at the same point last year.
Well, and I think the chief hit the nail on the head. This whole organization has been doing more with less, and I'd just be interested in that increase as we see a significant decrease in revenue and ways to do it. We continue to have more demands on our service, and that's pretty significant.
Thank you, Chief.
One question.
Yes.
And on that note, you referenced a study that you did on the response times due to the fact that we're increased call volume. Is there a way we could get that report, or?
Yes, sir. We had actually anticipated bringing you that report. The problem was we had so many things on the agendas that we have just finalized it, and it's going to be on your next agenda. We couldn't pack you
That's
here.
fine.
We'd
Thank
have
you.
held you all night long. Any other questions?
Thank you, Chief Holbrook.
Just seeing if I had that slide with me.
Chief, I can wait. Let's move on. I can wait. I'm confident.
You're just a troublemaker there, Director. Gould.
Exactly.
All right.
He's buying time
Kate
to
was
see
like,
if
"Come
Chief
on."
Wagner will show up.
Oh, well, or else he has to pinch hit.
Is that me or the slide?
It's pressure, Chris, you know.
Yes.
If we do this, it doesn't
We got to
matter.
fix that. All right. Relative to the training division, the training division is probably one of the least respected in terms of this. It's just taken for granted. But they are the first division that is ever called into question should something go wrong, whether it's a no-show notification or any one of a number of issues. Training division, even with constrained resources, was able to put on 3 full academies last year, including a truck academy, one of the first truck academies that this district has ever done. Participated in the regional high-rise drill, DMV driver training, live fire training at Ione, and wildland training. In addition to that, tested and evaluated 55 probationary employees. Looking forward, currently we have 2 academies on the agenda for training for next year. The total should be, we hope, in the neighborhood of 50 employees between those 2 academies. We have promotional training, which clearly Human Resources gets the kudos for promotional processes, but there's a litany of training and materials that are made available to the candidates prior to that provided by training. Officer truck, apparatus operator, academy track training, quarterly live fire training, ARF live fire training, tank farm training, LRCC professional training are all on the agenda for next year. And truly, if you look at what we call the operations calendar on a daily basis, to say it's impacted is absolutely an understatement. Add that in with increased run volume, and every one of our folks are truly doing more with less. So that will conclude training, but I'm certainly open to questions.
LRCC.
Los Rios Community College?
Okay, it is Los Rios, thank you.
Yes.
You may want to use a different term than impacted, Chief.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Chief. All right, you're off the hook, Chief Holbrook. Welcome to the podium, Chief Wells.
Thank you, Directors. Chief, Board Clerk Tilson. Mark Wells, Deputy Chief, in charge of the Administration Division. The Administration Division consists of the Finance Division, which is headed by the CFO, Rhonda McFarland, Human Resources Division, which is headed by the HR Manager, Melissa Maddox, and the Information Technology Division, which is headed by the IT Director, Matt Roseberry. The page numbers tonight for my presentation are 37 through 42 in your board packet. And it's hard to quantify really a lot of the accomplishments from last year with the Finance Division, based especially on the presentation you saw tonight. It's completely different than it used to be, and I think the professionalism of the staff and the presentation speaks for itself. However, with that being said, last year they issued leased revenue bonds to finance the administration building at Armstrong, purchasing firefighting and medical equipment. They organized a special public workshop for the Board of Directors, resulting in the opening of a trust fund to begin pre-funding our post-retirement medical benefit obligations, which will be done in July 1st of 2012. And they initiated the development of an overhead cost allocation system, which will maximize the recovery of overhead costs via user and regulatory fees, grants, and other reimbursements. Their goals for next year, the Finance Division, will be to prepare the accounting entries internally to adjust the governmental financial statements to an accrual basis versus the cash basis that we used to operate under. Update the existing capital facility fees to reflect the cost of the district's infrastructure needs, and to identify opportunities for streamlining procedures while maintaining internal appropriate controls. So moving on to the Human Resources Division. The accomplishments from last year, and you have to understand, we haven't hired firefighters in about 5 years. And last year we hired 74 firefighter paramedics and through 3 academies. And so that's to actually get folks in the door. And the amount of time that it takes in the background of that, in the background process, the testing, and all those processes is remarkable. Additionally, they conducted promotional exams to include the engineers and the battalion chiefs exams. And they assisted in multiple divisions with recruitments and selections to fill numerous positions attributed to reorganization and retirements. And their goals for next year are to recruit 50 more firefighters through 2 academies, and an additional 60 personnel actually hired that will fulfill the single role paramedic program. In addition to recruiting both internally and externally for all the additional support positions through attrition and retirement and reorganization, and promotional exams to include a captain's exam, a supervising inspector's exam, and most probably an engineer's exam, which we just concluded as well. So moving on to the Information Technology Division, their accomplishments last year were vast as well. They implemented a district-wide video conferencing solution. They developed a mapping solution, it's in prototype for the mobile data computer system that the Operations Division is actually installing. They started the migration of several servers to the virtual environment. And I have Ken there if you have any questions about that. Which is actually going to be saving costs on energy maintenance and labor for the maintenance of those systems. And they moved the district administration facility from Hurley to the building at Armstrong, which for those of us that are lay folks in the IT world wouldn't seem to be that difficult. It's unbelievable the amount of staff hours and the time and the effort and the planning that took when you think about our infrastructure of computers and data lines, et cetera. And they also moved all of business service divisions from the business service building at Gold Canal as well. All with very short, tight staff. So their goals for this next year are to implement the hardware for an EPCR system for the EMS division. They're going to complete the migration of the servers in the virtual environment. They're going to replace the network firewall. The system we have currently is dated and antiquated, and it's going to increase our efficiencies as well. And then they're going to move the Community Risk Reduction Division to the Armstrong facility in this next year as well. So do you have any questions for the divisions under the Administration Division?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chief Wells. Welcome to the podium, Chief Aaron.
Good evening, everyone. Dwayne Aaron. I'm your Support Services Branch Deputy Chief. And the first two divisions I'm going to speak to you about are our Fleet Maintenance Division and our Logistics Division, and you'll find the reference pages in your packet on page 60 to 63. Fleet Maintenance Division has a combined budget of labor, supplies and services, and a small amount of taxes and licenses of just over $2.6 million annually in this budget. And their primary mission at Fleet Maintenance is to support the district's operational readiness, keeping all the vehicles and apparatus in a safe and reliable working condition. Sorry if you can't hear me. They do that 24/7. They have mechanics on call, as well as their normal Monday through Friday work. And they're responsible for all the engine and pump overhauls, the heavy lifts on the rigs, as well as maintenance, oil changes, brakes, and that type of regular maintenance that goes on. They're also responsible for all the inspections, testing, record keeping, and the retirement of our equipment. And we, right now, we have quite a number of rigs that we have put out to surplus because of the purchase of the 20 new engines that we've recently done, and the purchase of the ambulances. Well, we've kept most of our ambulances because we're going to add some more with the single role paramedic program. We have surplused a few of those rigs as well. So Fred Bino and Shay Purcell, our fleet manager and assistant fleet manager, handle all those duties. Some of the accomplishments of fiscal year 11-12 include placing those 20 new fire engines and 2 tractor-drawn aerial rigs into service, the truck companies and the 20 new engines. In doing so, we increased the amount of our reserve rigs that we have ready to go. We didn't put 20 new rigs into service and take 20 rigs out of service. There was a trade-off where we put 20 new rigs into service, and I believe we took about 8 or 9 rigs out of service. So we increased our reserve fleet a little bit by doing this, which is very helpful to our firefighters, keeping safe rigs for them to operate. We have 12 ambulances as part of this purchase. We have 6 that are online and working. We have 6 more that by this date, I'm not sure, they could be all in service. They were very close, or very shortly we'll have the other 6 in service. Our fleet division hosted for I don't know how many years now, but we continually host annually the 42nd annual Fire Mechanics Academy. They did a great job. Fred and Shay do a great job putting that on. Chief Hankey and myself and some of the other command staff attended the banquet dinner at the end of the week. Potential mechanics and current fire mechanics from all around the country come to participate in the training that goes on during that week. So it's a very successful event. It's a very popular event with the mechanics throughout the industry. They made some significant improvements to our longevity of our ambulances. We used to have all of our ambulances assigned by a station, and with the nature of some of the stations being busier than others and having a higher run volume than others, we would have these peaks and valleys in our mileage that these vehicles would accumulate. They switched to a system where if a crew's in an ambulance and that ambulance that you're in is either due for a service, an oil change, a tire change, brake change, or if something should go wrong with it, the air conditioner breaks down or whatever it is, they contact the fleet division, they give you another ambulance, the broke down or the ambulance that needs service goes to fleet. When it's ready again, you don't go trade that ambulance out. The one you got is now your ambulance. So the ambulances are constantly rotating around throughout the district, and we're getting an evening of the mileage of the vehicles. So we're not getting a lot of peaks and valleys and getting high mileage ambulances in very short periods of time where they just get flat wore out. So we're seeing an extended life of our ambulances. Caveat to that is, at somewhere down the road, we're going to have a lot of ambulances that need to be replaced at one time, rather than having wore out ambulances in our fleet. So there are some pluses and minuses to whichever way you cut that pie up. Goals for fiscal year 12-13. Fleet is going to be working with Human Resources to develop a job description for a parts manager. It's a long needed position in the fleet division, someone who can work in the parts room and manage the inventory of the parts system for the mechanics so that the mechanics aren't being pulled off the floor to go chase down parts in a room that they're not familiar with. Because of that, and they're in a hurry, the inventory sometimes gets sloppy and things get scattered and picked up and not put where they need to go. It really affects the inventory of the parts system both in and out. Tied with that, we have one of our former mechanics is helping not only with the annual inventory at Fleet, but we're also going to a what's called an Asset Works inventory system where everything's going to be barcoded. So when a part comes in, it gets barcoded and becomes part of our inventory. When that same part gets pulled out of the parts shop by the parts manager and given to a mechanic to put on a rig, it'll be scanned and it'll be shown as out in the system and what rig it goes on. So they're moving towards that and hoping to get that completely finished up in this coming fiscal year. For the logistics division, logistics annual operating budget is approximately $2.9 million, just under $3 million annually. And logistics is exactly what it sounds like. They do all the ordering, receiving, storing of all equipment for anything for the employees of the fire district, whether it's the firefighters in the station, the miscellaneous staff that works in our administration buildings, EMS supplies, station supplies, medical supplies, office supplies, SCBAs, hose, all of that. That's what logistics handles. One of the some of the accomplishments they did, they worked with that same Asset Work system, and they are on the barcode scanning system for everything in logistics. So now everything that comes into logistics is scanned in and scanned out as it gets delivered to either the stations or the administration buildings as they do their work in logistics. One of the other accomplishments that the logistics folks took care of this year was we got back on track with our ladder testing for all the ladders in the district. It assisted us in helping with our ISO rating for the district by staying on top of that. Logistics was one of the divisions that was hit pretty hard with layoffs, but despite that, this year, our manager, Mark Jones, was able to come up with a new scheduling system, and he increased the station deliveries back to 4 days a week, where they were cut back less than that when the layoffs initially took place. So again, they're doing more with less. They figured out a way to be a little bit more efficient. In addition to that, they're also still picking up patient care reports daily and getting them delivered to the EMS division because that's so important for cost recovery. You can't let that type of paperwork sit around in a system like this. You need to have that keep moving for a cost recovery. And then the logistics division was instrumental for those 20 engines and the 12 ambulances in getting them outfitted and ready to get online, getting them all the equipment mounted in the compartments. We have some light duty folks that have been assigned to logistics to help with that project, and it's worked out very well. There's a great team effort between the operations side and the support services side with the logistics folks to get that done. Next, I'm going to talk to you about the facilities division. They handle the maintenance, replacement, repair of all the facilities in the division, whether it's a fire station, whether it's an administration building. They handle electrical, plumbing, anything. A lot of the things, as you can see from your from page 64 of your report, there's only 4 folks that work in the facilities division. We have 42 fire stations and a number of administration buildings. They are very busy. That's a handful of work for 4 people. When they do get overwhelmed, they send things out to a list of vendors that we have for various repairs and replacements of things. Some of the heavy lifts that they did in fiscal year 11-12 was the HVAC system at Station 101 was replaced. I know that doesn't sound like much of a heavy lift to replace the heat and air system, but the entire system was gutted and replaced. Station 101 is one of our very oldest facilities. I think the system that was in there came over on the Mayflower, I'm not sure. But it was quite extensive to get that thing replaced without A, destroying the whole station, and B, having a complete disruption to that crew and allowing them to still be in the station while the system was being traded out. We had 2 station roofs in 2010 to get replaced. We have a number of roofs in our facilities that are on the verge of needing replaced. It's some of the deferred maintenance that CFO McFarland spoke to. We have roughly an estimate of $1.5 million in deferred maintenance every year that we are kind of kicking the can down the road and not taking care of if we don't have to. We take care of them when they come up, but it's not allowing us with this tight budget the way it is to be as proactive as we want to be in the maintenance of our facilities. So these guys do a great job in taking care of those things as they come up. Some of the things that they're going to be facing in 2012-13's fiscal year is that deterioration of roofing, ramps, asphalt. We have a lot of asphalt maintenance that you let it go too long, and pretty soon you're taking all the asphalt out and replacing it rather than resealing it. So our facilities manager, Steve Borglund, stays on top of that to avoid that if at all possible. Huge project for these guys that started this year and is going to continue into this fiscal year is the change out of our exhaust extraction system. The current exhaust extraction system uses a vacuum system, obviously, and a pneumatic boot that uses compressed air to grip all the exhaust pipes as the rigs are pulled into the station, and then when they pull out, they're released. This new system uses a magnetic system, so there's no compressed air for these boots. The problem is that compressed air with all those lines overhead, one little leak causes those compressors to run continuously. They burn out. They have to be changed out all the time. We found it's a very expensive system to maintain. This is going to eliminate all those compressed air compressors, and the boots, they fail because they expand, they contract, and they crack and leak, and so that's all going to go away with the magnetic system for these exhaust extraction systems. So they're looking forward to getting that changed out on all the stations. They're working very closely with a couple of the operations BCs who are helping coordinate that. One of their other goals for the year is, because there's only 4 guys, they're spread out pretty thin all the time, but they're trying to get cross-trained in each of their trades. We have one guy who's very good at John Rayside, who's very good at framing. We have George Graven, who's very good at plumbing and electrical. We have Jamie Badal, who's very good at painting, sheetrock, and interior finish type stuff. They're trying to all get cross-trained as much as possible so that when we have things that happen throughout the district, we're not sending one specific guy to take care of it and then something else pops up of the same nature in another area and we don't have anybody to take care of it and we have to send it out to an outside vendor. So that's one of the goals, is develop some more cross-training this year for those guys. That's all the information I have for you for those 3 divisions. I know it also says up there capital facilities and equipment purchases. That might relate a little bit to the tenant improvement work at the Armstrong building, which I have overseen, so I can also ask or answer any questions that you might have about that. And just briefly, I'll tell you that I think I've shared this information with you preliminarily before, but to date, the tenant improvement that has taken place on the west side that's complete at Armstrong has cost roughly $1.1 million in change. And if you back out the one-time costs of things like the large backup generator on the building and some other IT things that are one-time costs that won't need to be purchased when we continue the work on the other side of the building for the boardroom and the fire prevention room, you bring the cost down to about $967,000. You divide that out by the square footage of the work that was done, and it's about $64 a square foot for that tenant improvement work, which is a pretty good price.
Are there any questions or comments for Chief Aaron? Thank you very, very much, Chief. Appreciate it. Next up, we have Chief Development Officer Larry Davis. Mr. Davis, welcome to the podium.
Thank you very much. The principal responsibilities of the Chief Development Officer are to maximize and look for economic opportunities for the district in support of the district's operations and risk reduction activities. The Chief Development Officer is in the Fire Chief's office, reports directly to the Fire Chief. The key responsibilities are, and areas of activity are real estate management and administration, grant management and administration, and land use and planning area of the district as it regards to annexations and detachments. The key successes this year, I think, have been, first of all, going back maybe a little into the year before, is the finalization and the purchase of the Armstrong building, followed by the negotiation of the lease for Sutter Health Systems, or IT systems, in our administration building. And that was a very very fortunate to get that in this real estate climate at that time, to get that tenant. That tenant's also a nonprofit tenant, and we have some tax savings that we realized by having a tenant that has that status. So they were a very special tenant to get. We also have leased out Station 33 to Bureau of Land Management. We had a presentation on that last week. Another thing I want to keep you apprised of is that we're very close and in the final stages of negotiations on the Hurley building and Station 102, and those will be coming online and generating revenue for the district very shortly. In the areas of grant management and grant administration, had a very successful year, most recently with the regional grant for thermal imaging cameras for participating agencies. We're going to receive a number of thermal imaging cameras. It was done as a regional grant, and we hosted and coordinated that. Also, the life packs and the cardiac monitors was $1.7 million. That was another very good grant that was very beneficial. Another one is the simulator grant for $4 million, which we have learned a lot on in the last 6 months. And also related to that is the successes we had on the cap-to-cap trip, where we were able to bring some federal resources and support to the project, and have really enhanced and actually reduced the cost of the project. And our state partners are happy about that, and we're working closely with them to move the project forward quickly. Other grants that of consequence is the SAFER grant, and that provided 24 firefighters for 2 years. That's been beneficial to the district. Going back a little bit to leaving grants, and we've had some other grants, more minor consequence, but they're in your packet, and you can look at those. But going back to the real estate portion too, there was the Zinfandel lease. We leased 8.25 acres to the California Fire Rescue Training Authority, and that's going to generate about $30,000 a year in revenue. So, and then under land use and planning and the annexations and detachments this year, the fire chief negotiated a very solid tax sharing agreement with one of our neighboring cities, and my role in that was to provide the backup information through a consultant that we hired to provide it, the chief with the important numbers that he needed to make the deal work, and it will. That's one that's going to generate a lot of benefit for a lot of years, and down the road that will, I think, be seen as a real pivotal decision and pivotal agreement for the district. So, in summation, currently, I just want to talk about total grants under management. Currently, we're managing about $16.7 million in grant funds, and that kind of generated the request for a staff person partially funded by a cost allocation plan and out of the grants, and half funded by with the district. The principle behind that is to get the back office side of it and grants management. There's pursuing grants and writing grants and getting grants, and then there's years of managing the grants. And so we are now in a position where we have a lot of grants that need to be managed. Managing them poorly is a very bad idea. It can result in repayment of the grants, so we want to avoid that. And so we're characterizing it as building a grant program. We're actually building a shop where we will manage grants and a platform to get more grants. On real estate, in gross rents, I know you have a lot of net information in your budget, but in gross rents, we are $816,900 in gross rents a year currently, and that does not include 102 or Hurley, and so we are going to be well over $1 million very shortly in gross rents collected on the real estate, and that's a new aspect to the district. That is not something that we've done in the past to the extent that we're doing it now. That's my presentation.
I would just add, is there one more slide? I thought there was a couple slides in there that I think the directors would like to see. The first is the leased properties fund, because we talked about revenue over direct costs on leased properties, and we'll make this available to you after the meeting. And then the next slide after that, I think, is the real tale right there. You know, you can see that Larry and his limited staff, being Larry and Larry, have done a phenomenal job. I mean, he reaches out to all our different division heads, and they put the muscle into getting the stuff. But when it comes down to writing it there, I think that's a tale in the end of fiscal 10, 11, 11, 12. And that's why I just want to point out that's a very steep hill for us to continue to climb, but we're going to endeavor to try to do that again in this upcoming fiscal year.
Are there any comments or questions for Mr. Davis?
Refresh my memory, if you will, as to who is considering the lease on 102. The county, was it?
Yeah, and I mean, we're in negotiations with them, so I'd like to keep that private.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Sorry.
And with that, that concludes the division head reports. Well, I'd like to make a couple comments and open it up for overall questions from the board. The budget calendar, the next slide, will show you that tonight we're asking you to adopt the preliminary budget. Because of the way the laws are, and because we have a clerk that keeps us in tune to what we need to do and on task, we'll bring the final budget back July 26, 2012. We have to bring it back for a second reading. It won't be as in detailed by what we did tonight. It'll just be basically moving it forward. And then, unusually, if you can imagine this, mid-year, we're going to come at January, kind of like mid-year, not like May or June for mid-year. And that'll be January 10th, 2013. Last but not least, you were provided a draft interdepartment memo in an envelope. That is the 2013-14 forecast. That is not this coming year, but the following year, and it's a draft because it's exactly that. It's very, very, very preliminary. And I just want to make a couple comments on that for the board. When you heard Chief Aaron and CFO talk about deferred building maintenance, $1.5 million a year is what we need to be putting away. And you talk about pre-funding retiree medical. That's on an ARC, the annual required contribution, recommended contribution is about $8-9 million a year. To be able to staff and buy the radios, we're going to need to be compliant coming up, and breathing apparatus. All those types of things that we need to do to run an effective fire district, we put in there in 2013-14. And so you can see that if we were to do all that, which I don't want you to think that we would, because it's not realistic, you'd be running about a $16-17 million budget deficit. This is that food for thought. This is to highlight where we need to continue the focus on fixing the long-term obligations that we have to do and being fiscally responsible as a management team to bring this to you. We have taken a huge slice out of this in this upcoming budget by getting caught back up on things that were classic kick the cans down the road. By no means are we going to catch up on all this in 2 years. But what it goes to show you is that we have a steep hill still to climb. And though we will finish this budget this year, with no further station closures or reductions in service. We are by no means out of the woods. I believe we do have the will and the wherewithal to get there for 2 years out. This provides us the ability to start planning, start making those tough decisions. I have submitted a request to the Labor Union 522, a letter to them the other day, requesting to start some off-the-record discussions. And they're under no obligation to do that. Starting in August, we would hope that we could have some fruitful discussions that perhaps by the beginning of January would help us start to address some of the long-term consequences that we're facing down the road. And last but not least, we will be looking at alternative revenues. I think that's something that as a district we're going to have to look at. We have tightened those bolts down to where we tighten them much more. As Chief Holbrook said, that they're going to snap the heads off and they're going to be useless. We have created efficiencies and continue to do that. I think we've been an extremely responsible agency. And we are working very, very hard to get that public trust that we're meeting those requirements that we need to do. So when you take a look at the proposed budget, clearly there's a lot of things that we can do that wipe that down. But the point of the issue is if we were running the railroad exactly the way it should be run, that's a dollar figure you'd be looking at. And there's some estimates in there that we don't know. We're anticipating further drops in property tax. We're assuming the worst. So, but I think we have to do that after not the recession, but the depression that we've been going through. And I think we still continue in California, and especially in the Sacramento region, to experience on a daily basis. We have to take a realistic snapshot of what we think it's going to be. So with that, that concludes my comments for this evening, and I and staff would be happy to answer any questions on your 2012-13 fiscal budget proposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Are there any questions on the presentations or in general with the budget that we have actually very thoroughly, thank you, Chief, very thoroughly presented earlier, very, very thorough. Go ahead.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I would just like to congratulate the group for their presentations tonight and thank them for the detail that was presented, and also encourage my colleagues that this be the format that we do for 3 or 4 years. The challenge we run into is if every year we change the format, it becomes very difficult for not only the staff to prepare and to kind of get their game going, makes it difficult for us to compare what's happened in previous go-arounds. And then, like the Chief said earlier, it helps us get our management team in position where they can be held accountable and they can do those things that they've been doing so well before. The final thing is we heard tonight 77,000 requests for services. Somewhere in there may be an opportunity for us to change what we do as a business provider, to figure out a way where we can reasonably reduce that number on cases where our requests for services are not legitimate. Out there's a lot of people that know that there's people that contact this agency and request our services that are completely ludicrous and not required and shouldn't be done. And we have, I think in this community, maybe not addressed that as aggressively as we could in dispatch and other places. And maybe there's an opportunity for us to kind of stem that tide, because as you see this proposal that the Chiefs presented with 13-14 budgets, we're still in a situation where we're getting less and being requested to do more. Maybe there's a percentage of the requests that we can eliminate by saying that's not what we do, or it's inappropriate for you to ask for that service at this time. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Just in response to that, I would add that we've brought on a renowned trauma surgeon, Dr. Schatz, as the medical director for our agency. And I met with him the other day, as well as Dr. Mackey, which represents all of us. And we are looking at that state and national trend of expanded scope and how do we deliver the services in the field. And one of those issues is that very ticket, is that in the dispatch protocol, and perhaps I'm working with our private partners, how do we better treat that, better respond to those types of issues so that we're not impacting the 911 system as much. So that's something that's been brought forward. They're starting to look at scope and methodology and stuff. They've actually got some statistics, so we are addressing that.
Thank you very much, Chief. I'm glad to hear that. All right, we're still on action item 4, and it is, we have received the presentations, and now it's time for adoption of resolutions, A through E by separate motion. And Chair, is that correct, Madam Clerk? Okay. And Chair will entertain a motion for...
Make the motion.
For A?
For A.
For A.
Second.
First and seconded. Please call the roll.
Director Gould.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Newcomer.
Aye.
Scheidegger.
Aye.
Pearson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Directors Monk, Orzali, and Clark absent. Motion passes.
Thank you. Entertain motion for item B.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, first and seconded. Thank you. Please call the roll.
Directors Gould.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Newcomer.
Aye.
Scheidegger.
Aye.
Pearson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Directors Monk, Orzali, Clark absent. Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 4C.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Director Gould.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Newcomer.
Aye.
Scheidegger.
Aye.
Pearson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Directors Monk, Orzali, Clark absent. Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 4D.
So move.
Second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Directors Gould.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Newcomer.
Aye.
Scheidegger.
Aye.
Pearson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Directors Monk, Orzali, Clark absent. Motion passes.
All right, thank you. Now, I'd like to get a consensus here. We have 3 additional items, and then the fourth one is a closed session, which would give us a...
Want to do E?
Did we do E?
Madam
I do E?
Chair,
Yeah,
we
we
didn't do
skipped
E.
one.
No.
Oh, thank you.
Kelly, you can make the motion,
I'll make the motion
I'll
that we
second it.
approve Resolution E.
because that's what I do.
And you do it so well. 4E, please call the roll.
Director Gould.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Newcomer.
Aye.
Scheidegger.
Aye.
Pearson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Directors Monk, Orzali, Clark absent. Motion passes.
All right. The question is, can the directors and senior staff, can we go ahead and push through the next 3 items, and then we can take a break concurrently with breaking for closed session?
I think
Yeah,
that's the best.
3 items or-
The public is here.
How many items do you have? You have 3 or 4?
Well, 5, 6, and
3,
7,
excuse
and then
me.
8 is the...
Is closed session.
Closed session
Okay.
item, and then now that can afford us a little bit of a break before the rest of the meeting.
I say
Well
let's do
done,
it.
everyone, 2:20. Good job. All right. Item 5, resolution, authorization to transfer the district other post-employment benefits, OPEB, reserve funds to the CalPERS Employer Retirement Trust. CFO McFarland.
Yes, thank you. Board, as you, I'm sure recall, you authorized us to open this trust at a prior meeting. We've gone through all of the paperwork to set it up, and we would like to have authorization to begin funding. We have a long ways to go, but it always takes a first step, and this would be it. So I would just ask for your authorization to do so.
So move.
Excellent. Any discussion? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Director Gould.
Absolutely.
Kelly.
Aye.
Newcomer.
Aye.
Scheidegger.
Aye.
Pearson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Directors Monk, Orzali, and Clark absent. Motion passes.
All right. Thank you very much. Item number 6, sole source contract award, professional consulting services, APCO. Chief Holbrook, welcome.
Madam President, members of the board, thank you. Chris Holbrook, Deputy Chief of Operations. This staff report requests the award of a sole source contract for consulting services to APCO Worldwide from Sacramento, California. The district has worked intermittently with APCO since September of 2010 on a number of public education and communication issues. APCO is uniquely qualified among firms in Greater Sacramento region to advise public and private entities on public finance matters. Since 1994, APCO has provided public education and communication services on such matters to a number of organizations, including Sacramento Area Flood Control Agency, City of Sacramento, and the Downtown Partnership. Given that APCO has successfully completed work to date on district projects, and because the district would incur increased costs to familiarize a new contractor with the issues, it is in the district's best interest to pursue the services of APCO under the district's sole source procurement process.
So move.
First and seconded. Are there any questions or comments? 3, 2, 1. Clerk, please call the roll.
Directors Gould,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
Newcomer,
Aye.
Scheidegger,
Aye.
Pearson,
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Directors Monk, Gorzali, and Clark absent. Motion passes.
Thank you. And Chief Holbrook, you have item 7, amending professional services agreement, Capital Connection.
This one's even faster. In 2010, we awarded under our own multiple award schedule a professional service agreement with Capital Connection. That agreement expires June 30th of this month, and so we need to extend that for approximately a 6-month time span. Again, having worked with Capital Connection for a significant amount of time on a number of tax issues, it is in the district's best interest to continue this contract.
So move.
Seconded.
Any questions or comments? And my action was because it's June 30th and is when it expires. That's 3 days from now. Not intended to be anything else. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Directors Gould.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Newcomer.
Aye.
Scheidegger.
Aye.
Pearson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Directors Monk, Gorzali, and Clark absent. Motion passes.
Thank you. At this time, we will incorporate a very short break and reconvene in closed session, and afterwards we'll return. Thank you.